So this is Senate Transportation. It's Wednesday, the 27th of March. We're now on 868, otherwise known as the transportation bill. So our legislative council is here to help us try to close out more sections. I was hoping, Donna, that we could start with a new central section because I thought that since we only have your expertise for a little more time, so we'll go through those new sections and then go back through the yellow sections. Because those are the yellow sections that are new, that might require some other drafting.
Okay.
Right.
Right. I don't have. Oh, maybe I do have some of those. I do have a lot of those with me. Yes, those other the redrafted sections. I do have the ones that had a lot of redrafting. I have those.
So we'll just go in order. So you have language on the registration fees for EVs?
I do. Does anyone need a paper copy, or is everyone?
I think it is. Some people out here might
It
want.
is there.
Is it diverse electric plug-in hybrid vehicle registration fees?
Yes, and it should at the bottom of the page where the document number is. It should say V2.
V2.
The bottom.
The one down at the bottom. Yeah.
Yep. There we go. Yep. Thank you.
So I had to do some math, and I think so the fee is going to be 1 3/4 times, or
Yeah.
or you can just go through.
Well, I can say that I originally drafted this as you had explained it to me, so that it would be, I believe it was $40 more in each instance. I think that's what it was. So it was some dollar amount
Right.
in each instance. And the DMV requested that it be a percentage instead, and I believe, I don't know if he's not, JFO also, I think said that it's easier or better to work it as percentages.
Because then if the registration changes, so we don't have to remember to change this.
Part of it, I guess, but.
Okay, so if the fee is $89, it's going to be 2 1/2 times. That to me seemed like a lot more than we were talking about before.
I can speak to that.
Okay.
If you would like.
Yes.
For the record, Michelle Boomhauer, Agency of Transportation. In consultation on this, and we also did send along a memo that Patrick Murphy prepared, which provided what the anticipated cost would be under the mileage-based user fee for the average EV driver, and the 2.5 times was more closely aligned with the anticipated revenues we would get under the new scenario for MBUF than the amount that had been originally recommended. And so we thought it would be better to go with something that's closer to what the final outcome is going to be than to go partway there, since this is basically about sort of bridging until we can implement the MBUF, but there's no disagreement that we need to implement, and this is roughly what the fee would be under the new program.
Okay, well, I think the problem with doing this, which would be $133 basically, if I did the math correctly, is a lot of money to ask somebody to pay up front. So it'd be $225 total for this. So I think that is more than I'm wanting to do at this time. We were talking about like an $80 fee, $80 for the EVs and $40 for the plug-in hybrids.
Say it again, you want to be where?
Like $80 for the EV and $45 for the plug-in hybrids.
And this is 2 1/2 times for the EVs and 1 3/4 times for the plug-ins.
2 1/2 times.
Yeah, page 1, line 15 is where it says 1 3/4 times for the plug-in hybrids.
And that's of $89.
Correct. And of the biennial fee of.
Right.
Yeah.
If they get the discount for the biennial fee.
One more to weigh in on that. So I think whatever the final fee amounts you decide on are less important than the fact that we use the increment.
Right.
As you mentioned before, in terms of longevity and system programming, the issue of giving a discount for a 2-year EV fee payment versus a 1-year was also going to be problematic and delay system implementation and cost more for programming than just having it be the same every year up through. So
not allowing.
we would ask that it be sort of decoupled from the notion where registrations you get a saving for paying
Right.
ahead. You know, this is basically a use fee for the roadway network, and you know that not only in addition to the programming issue, but also the fact that we are trying to cost recover what they would have paid in gas tax essentially, or some portion thereof. It didn't make sense that we would give a discount on this sort of for paying for 2 years at once. That was just our rationale there.
Okay, yes.
You said increment, but did you mean the multiplier piece?
Multiplier,
Okay.
yeah, thank you.
You like the multiplier on the fee?
Yeah, it was gonna be a lot easier for DMV to implement than.
So if we do 0.9 times 89, so if we say a 0.9 fee, that would be $80.10.
But they're doing it
But
both.
this is a multiplier of the original, so 0.9 would mean less.
So what you're after is like 1 point.
Well, you would be an additional 0.9.
You could do that.
So I guess you could say it's 1.9. Because you get the 1 is to get you to 89, and the 0.9 gets you that extra $80.10.
It's actually 0.95 instead of.
It would need to be 1 point something, or else you would
Right.
receive
1.9.
Well,
less.
if you want it to be less than the registration fee, I think it would be 0.95 or something, 0.9.
Additional, but since you,
Additional.
but the way it's worded, you want to include the $89, or do we include just what's the additional amount?
I think you would not want to put $89 in there in case the registration fee changes. I think you would just say the standard registration fee for a lighted vehicle.
Right, so that's why it has to be less than 1.9, because they're already paying the 89. In subsection B, they're paying an additional.
All right, the way that I drafted it, it was not that way.
Okay,
If you see on line 5 of page 1, it says except as provided, cars will be paying this.
right,
And then it
Oh, I
says
see.
the annual fee will be, so it is actually a fee, so it would be the 1 point whatever in B and C.
Yes.
Did, and the folks across the street looked at that and they were okay with that, because they were, mainly they were saying that simplicity is the main, so they're okay doing it this way.
They're okay doing it that way, whatever the calculation.
So it would be 1.9.
Don't do math in public, calculus is, yeah.
Why? Why 80? Because it shall, right now it says shall be 2 1/2 times. Why, and now we're about to say shall be 1.9 times. What about just 2 times? That basically gets you, how married are you to 80 versus the simplicity of just twice double?
So we get to 89. I mean, I didn't want to go over $100. I thought that was going to be problematic. I'm not, it doesn't have to be 80, it could be 89, and then we could do 2 1/2.
You basically would do 2 times, so the EVs would pay double.
Yeah, maybe another $89 at this point. And then the plug-in hybrids would be 1.5.
I mean, I can get behind the $80, but then you have to say why 1.9, like where did the $80 come from?
Right.
It's just.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, right. Okay, so,
2 and 1.5, but then is that only for the annual, or did you want the biennial then to have the benefit of the
well,
reduced?
we just heard that including the biennial fees is adding more complication just for them to
Just
add it into their computer. So if it's double, you don't have the option to do a biennial fee for an EV, I guess is what we're saying.
Okay, so
Right, that's what.
for an EV can only do an annual fee?
They can pay it in advance.
So
They just can't.
They just don't get a discount.
fine. Okay, so I thought my interpretation of the way this language is, Donna, tell me if I'm wrong, if they choose the biannual fee of 163, they would just pay twice that. Is that not the case?
Yes,
Correct,
Okay,
but that means that they get the benefit because that is actually less than 2 times what they would have paid if they paid the annual twice.
well, but if, what I'm hearing from the agency saying that, and when DMV was in here, they were saying, make this as simple as possible, so we can do it quickly and not have the high cost. And what you're saying is that would be more complicated if we had the EV fee also have a discount for 2 year or 3 year.
Yeah.
So we would take out the biennial fees and just say that it's gonna be 2 times and 1.5 times.
Right, and I actually just saw something that, yeah, okay, that I actually probably didn't make very clear at the beginning, so I will work on that. There may need to be some statement because you don't want there to be the assumption that the biennial fee of 163 applies, since
Right.
we're only gonna be talking about annual, so there probably needs to be a statement of, no, there's no biennial fee or something like that. Okay, yeah, I can rework that.
But maybe you have that when you accept as provided in B and C, yeah, that's part of the accept,
Right,
because of those other sections, since they're, the biennial fee will be the same as the annual fee times 2.
exactly.
Okay.
And then do you want to go on to D or are we still?
Yeah.
Okay, so, if the additional amount that's collected in B and C, is allocated to the transportation fund for the purpose of increasing Vermonters' access to EVSE charging ports. Would you like a paper copy of what we're looking
We're
at?
talking about the EV charging, so we basically said that the EV charge would be twice to make the math simpler, round number, so that'd be another $89. Right now, the registration would be $89. Instead of putting a dollar number, we're tying it to the percentage. So it'd be 2 times for an EV and 1.5 times for a plug-in hybrid.
Oh,
This language you'll see is what was higher. It was the amount that the NBUF study and agency thought that EVs would play into that was more like $220, $180. So this gets it back to where it's kind of in the area that we were talking about.
Which we were thinking about 90 and 45.
Yeah, so that's right there.
And your, the marks that I just made on that was just to show the general idea. There probably will be some other changes to the actual words.
And we heard testimony from Michelle that giving the EVs and plug-in hybrids a discount for 2 years would be complicated, cause extra cost and delay, so we're not gonna do that. And so D is the section that says it's going to EV charging. I don't know if this language, increasing access to electric vehicles, is that adequate for understanding what the agency would do with this money? Because we want, I guess that makes sense, but we want more charging ports.
yeah, I mean, you could make it more specific. I mean,
If you have a EVSE plan,
yeah.
do you have a general plan or just a NEVI plan?
The NEVI plan is the general plan, and I think the only difference is, and that's stated in the goals, the new goals now, is that it be within 3 miles of an interstate interchange and then every 25 miles on the state highway.
And then what the House did when they wanted to move that 1.7 million for EV charging.
They were, I think, more interested in getting more money for the community charging programs that ACCD administers. And so if you want the revenue from this to go to that specific program, you might want to make that specific in the bill.
And that was multifamily housing and community charging, some 3-phase, but mostly
Mostly 2.
2.
Should we give some flexibility?
That might be good just from the perspective of the fact that if we get that EPA carbon reduction grant, there's a lot of money in there for both programs, and we could sort of leverage these resources
Do they
most
require
effectively.
match?
I don't recall if they're gonna require a match.
This should help.
This could help, and
Okay, why don't we add some language to be done about that references what the House did that program at ACCD? And the funding could go to fund that or other EDSE
Network,
network as
to building the statewide, charging network.
upon the discretion of the agency of education. So based on, they can decide what other funding they have, and they could have more money go to that ACCD program. Does that make sense?
I think so, yes.
It's nice you're able to decipher this conversation.
I've been with your committee for an entire 5 weeks. I've kind of gotten used to the way you
It's been 5
talk.
weeks.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's on page 2?
Page 2 is a public outreach effort. The Department of Motor Vehicles shall implement a public outreach campaign regarding increased registration fees for battery electric vehicle and plug-in hybrid vehicles. And plug-in electric hybrid vehicles not later than October 1. The campaign shall disseminate information on the department's webpage and also other methods such as, this is very closely related to language that Anthea had drafted for another public outreach campaign, and I just found it and marked it up for this purpose.
Okay.
And I will point out that,
I mean, radio, those are fairly expensive, I would think.
we may wanna not have that level of specificity.
I was gonna say, this is really,
Public outreach campaign,
okay,
they know how to do those, and when they have changes.
I was gonna say, this
So we
is,
don't need the last
No.
phrase, through a public outreach campaign, and we're gonna, such as, things. I mean, it's just such as, so it's not
just such as
requiring.
out, so just, and through other methods, is that,
Yeah,
and period at that point?
and other outreach methods, period.
Outreach. So it's on the department's webpage and other outreach methods. I didn't point out that on the first one where the changes to this new fee would come into effect, it would come into effect on January 1, 2025 was the last I had heard, and I don't know if that's
I
still.
think it will be sooner than that,
they could do it sooner, I
Could
guess the
be
question
sooner.
is, do we want it to be sooner,
Right.
or is there an advantage to doing it at a certain time, just for DMV?
Well, you could do no later than, and then if they can bring it
Yeah, I
online.
think that's
that gives
probably
you
would be great.
flexibility.
My only concern is the amount of time for the public outreach.
yeah, I mean, that has to balance, obviously, yeah.
So it'll take effect on passage and be fully effective. Section will take effect on passage and be fully implemented on no later than January 1st.
Yeah, we could say no later if DMV feels like it's helpful to start in October for some reason, then we could do that.
They may wanna start at the beginning of the federal fiscal year, I don't know if they would or not, but.
Okay, I will make sure that's highlighted in your next version so you can see how it's written.
Because, yeah, I think one of the commissioners said basically they could do it as early as the end of September, but I don't know if that's enough time to let everybody know. But they'll know when they get the bill on what the cost is.
So then, section 2 is something that you had not talked to me about and that Department of Motor Vehicles suggested, and it is on page 2, line 8. It would be the third section in this particular group of sections. This would take effect on the earlier of July 1, 2027, or the effective date on some sort of MBUF for fully electric battery vehicles. And that would be that on the previous page, whatever you end up with in subsection B would be repealed.
That's the sunset, right?
Correct. It would be a sunset, just on the fully electric cars, not on the plug-in hybrids.
Right, why would we do that? Because we're just assuming that, why would we only do it
I
really?
don't know, that was what
So,
DMV asked me to do.
So, two things probably will come into play here. the final amount for plug-in hybrids will need to be 1.75. That's what we've calculated to be the appropriate replacement for gas tax. And then that will just stay in place going forward. The MBUF will not be collecting the plug-in hybrid vehicles fees. It'll be based on 1.75. So we will have to come back to you at some point when the MBUF is ready to be implemented and ask that the fee be moved from 1.5 to 1.75 for the plug-in hybrids.
Or alternatively, if you're comfortable with the 1.75, at least until it becomes effective, which you could always change before then, since this is eliminating the fully electric cars, you could at the same time raise the hybrid at that point to 1.75.
I think we should keep it this way, who knows, maybe something else will change, and we could do 1 point.
Okay. Okay.
We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Okay, so that's the road
So take
usage.
the effect on the earlier of, not or. So
This was a notation to myself. I'll make sure that it's written correctly. Is it?
sure, but in other words, if we, or effective date of the MBUF. So if MBUF is not earlier than July 1 of 2017, maybe it's like July of 2028, then what do we do? Well, what happens if in fact MBUF is after July 1? What do we,
Then July 1, 2027, this additional registration fee
goes away?
would go away, yeah. Oh,
Well, would we want that? I wanted to keep it in effect and then it would go away
Once
once we, the effective date of, that's,
Yeah,
okay.
understand
So
what that
that,
is.
yep. And I just realized that A needs to be amended slightly as well, so this section will look different. You see it, okay, so it shouldn't be the earlier of, it shall be on the effective date of the MBUF.
yeah,
We do sometimes have a little slippage, that's my,
yes. Okay,
Okay,
we're all good with that? So you can either give us new language for that, or if, I don't know if you're creating a new H68
I am strike all,
version, so then we can add it in there.
I can do that, yep. And shall I have only those parts that we discussed highlighted, rather than all of it highlighted?
Yeah,
we like to feel success.
okay, so the authority to purchase land for the central garage.
That is also on your site, and it should say draft 2.1 at the top. Senator, do you prefer paper copies? Yes.
That one is not coming up.
It should have been posted more recently because I just made some changes to it based on emails.
I am trying that.
At the bottom of the list. Big 68 Central Garage relocation draft.
Oh, maybe I have to refresh that page. And it didn't move that. Okay, that's what it was. Refreshing the run.
So I tossed this together after leaving the House committee, so this may need to be massaged a little bit because they asked for some changes. So there's only one page.
So the citation is the statute that requires the, our authorization, because it exceeds the.
Correct.
Threshold.
Correct.
Citation.
Correct, so pursuant
I just
to,
want, I don't really have all of that.
You know, surprised it's in your junkyard somewhere.
So I just want to make sure pursuant to
Yes.
19 VSA is what I think it might be.
yes, it is 19 VSA 26B requires your permission if the purchase is for more than a certain amount, I believe it's 500,000. The secretary, so pursuant to that, you are giving this authority. The secretary is authorized to use up to 2 million from the central garage fund to purchase real property of approximately 20 acres on the Payne Turnpike in Berlin, adjacent to state-owned property on which to locate a new central garage. And this did say at one point 2 parcels, and then there's some talk about it might be more than 2, and it's just so, but all of this together is approximately 20 acres, so that it seems, and it is adjacent to property that's already owned by the state. The second section is.
Do we use the term site rather than locate for buildings?
Site a new,
on which to cite a new,
to site?
I don't know, institutions, don't we talk about citing usually?
Yeah.
I don't know,
I
it's a
don't,
minor change.
I wish that we would get a little closer to, on the approximately 20 acres, because I think it's like 23 acres. I mean, couldn't we be a little bit more prescriptive about what they're buying? Or are you guys happy with that?
We can
That's a real estate part of me, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, we can get you an exact amount.
Yeah, why
I
don't we
mean,
just
we've
do
got
that?
the parcel maps.
Yeah, we have it right there, so.
Just don't wanna have it like a tenth of an acre off and,
Right.
you know.
Well, leave it, yeah.
We can keep the
We can keep
approximately.
the approximate, but.
Yeah, you always keep approximately, we use plus and minus, but yes.
Approximately 22.8674.
Yes.
Plus or minus.
That's like pie, we
Yeah.
can carry it out forever.
Yeah, no, I was thinking the same thing, like, we don't want to say the address on page perfect, but they're not gonna buy some other parcel right next door, I don't.
So the second section on page 1, line 9 is, would be adding a new subsection G to existing law, and section 13 of Title 19 is the section that deals with the central garage in general. There are many different, or central garage
So
fund,
why do
I
we
believe.
need G when we already said they're authorized to purchase from that fund?
I am not certain. I was asked to,
So
Draft this
are they
and then-
adding to what they're doing, that they can also use the
Use
money
it
to
for
buy the property,
purchase.
but then they can use the monies as well to do.
Oh, and,
to do
oh,
the
no,
design.
this is design build.
Right, design build.
Right, so I think it is,
Design.
I think it's at least, at the very least, clarifying what they can use, if not expanding what they
So
can use the fund for.
We only are doing the purchase in the first,
Right.
section, and, this is a, and this.
I don't even know, I don't wanna split hairs here, but I don't even know why we need for the purchase of real property. When we could have just say, general garage fund money may also be used to, design, build services, whatever. I mean, I don't know why we need to reiterate that they're purchasing it, we already told them in section 1.
Well, this is in the statute though, and
Yeah,
it
we'd have to go
it doesn't
back.
clearly, I mean, it doesn't explicitly say purchase in
Okay.
subsection A.
Okay,
So subsection A, the objectives set forth in subsection A, do you remember what those are?
I can pull it up.
I didn't know, I assume it's okay, but I don't know what those objectives are. We
It's,
even have green books.
no, isn't
Yeah,
it, it's very
Oh, they're
strange.
behind there.
Oh, they're there?
I think so. There may be in the, cupboard.
I think they're.
So I can say that Jana thought that we needed the G section to allow the use within the central garage fund constraints as written in the central garage fund statute. Because those statutes are constrained with regards to what we can use CG funds for.
So, Title 19, Section 13 is the central garage fund section. And it says there is created the central garage fund which shall be used to, and then there are 2 uses. Furnish equipment on a rental basis to the districts and other sections of the agency for construction, maintenance, and operation of highways or other transportation activities. And provide a general equipment repair and major overhaul service inclusive of any assets, supplies, labor, or use of contractors necessary to provide the service, as well as to furnish necessary supplies. So it doesn't specifically say that the central garage fund can be used to purchase the property on which that general equipment repair service is provided, or to design build that property. This is saying that it does. They would still need to come to you if they wanted to spend more than $500,000 to get permission. But this is explicitly saying in statute, in the future, is saying that they can use the money for purchase and design build services. And it's also meaning that in the future, when they get past spending the $2 million for the property, to purchase the property, they could then use in the future central garage fund monies for the design build of this specific site.
That's opening up the use of the fund in perpetuity.
Right, but it does pursuant to the objectives set portion A, which is the furnish of equipment and provide general equipment, repair and major overhaul services. Which is what it shall be used for. Right, it does change it so you could purchase it
In the future.
and design build services. Which
So if you wanted to put on an additional bay, for example, seems like those kinds of.
Or they could just buy real estate.
Yes.
Maybe they just want to hire a rest.
I don't think it's only the bay, because I think that it applies to the design build of whatever the initial.
I know, but if that authorization that fund monies can be used.
Correct.
You could argue that that opens up the fund out into the future. That's my only point. It's not just this self-contained replacement, that is, an issue here. And, so that's why I'm bringing it up, is
Yeah.
that expands the authorized use of the fund on the replacement into something in the future.
I guess the design build services for facilities, but I'm okay with that. I mean, it still has to be within the purpose of the garage fund. They couldn't use it for administrative offices or something, you know, so I think it's all, I'm okay with it. But I think it's a good question to raise.
We are fine with creating more specificity related to this relocation of the Route 302 facility, so that it's clear that this is simply about this particular project.
You're not looking to get broader
No.
usage.
No.
So if you want to do that, it would be very easy just to rewrite what is in the second part of new 13G to be part of the session law above, so that it applies only to this project.
I think I would feel more comfortable giving that kind of opening up for this, as opposed to somebody who's gonna be quite creative in the future.
So you wouldn't put anything, you wouldn't create a 13G.
Correct, and I think it probably would, probably doesn't need to say anything about the purchase of real property, because you've just authorized that. So it would just be saying that, you know, in addition, the central garage fund monies, not these 2 million, but just central garage fund monies in general, may be used for the design build services.
Just a general statutory drafting question for you, Donna. When there's a section that's repealed, do you go to the next section? Would it be H?
Well, yeah, they had actually done the right thing and done it to H, and I was going to check to see how long G had been repealed. Generally, if it's been repealed for a long time, it's fine to reuse it, but there's always the concern that there's some sort of cross-reference or something.
Right.
So I put in G just when I was drafting it a few minutes ago and thought I would go check to see, but you're absolutely right. You're calling me on my drafting.
Oh, I just wanted, because you see those deleted ones
Yeah.
for old stuff.
So we're just gonna add to the first one then, that central garage fund monies may be used for the design building for this replacement building or something.
And you're not limiting it to the 2 million, it's just in general, is that correct?
Yeah, I don't,
Okay.
2 million's needed to purchase the land. We were talking about, I don't know what the replacement is, 20 million?
The design build services would still be allowed to come from the general fund for that one piece of property.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, that could be not cheap.
I know.
Well, yeah, if you're gonna do the design, PGS always figures 10% of whatever the project's gonna be is what the design portion of it is. I mean, that's kind of
I guess design
standard.
build services includes building it.
or the design to build it, because
It
it's,
could be building.
right.
I don't know, you deplete the fund, I would think.
Well, this is a question I'm just sending to Jana, is would we only be using reserve funds, you know, sort of above the standard amount we are required to maintain in there? I think that's what the.
Because it's almost like what we've used the cash fund for in the institutions committee. Why go out and bond for them types of dollars when you already have the cash sitting there? And so you're just gonna use the design, you're gonna use that cash money that you have there as the design build. And then once you know that figure, then you'll go out and find monies elsewhere, whether you bond for it or whatever you do. So that's kind of the emphasis for the cash fund. So you're not carrying over those dollars on something you don't have a capital construction. You used it for an estimate to what it's gonna cost to build.
Yeah,
So you're not carrying over that debt continually.
right, and she indicates we would also use our transportation funds that are maybe, carry forward funds at the end of the year, not carry forward is not the right term. Excuse me? Reversions, thank you. That could be another, another spot.
The cost is, I don't know how many millions of dollars. I mean, what's the one up in St. Albans costing?
I think that one's 8 to 10 million,
Yeah, and this is gonna be a lot more than that.
probably.
Yeah. So we're talking about a lot, unless you've got a lot of money in this fund, you could.
No. I think Logan has come.
Yeah, just a quick comment. So Logan Woodbury just bought this. If you're worried about them using a large portion of central garage funds, you could take that out, and then once they figured out the total cost, they could come back in and request a transfer of central garage funds, given their surplus
Well,
that they have, and move those out if you want to allow it to be used for that
well,
purpose.
I guess to say, it's one thing to use it, to purchase the land, and it's another thing to design it, but to open doors so you can deplete the fund
No,
to build, which to me, design, build, would allow, without having that discussion about what
Why don't we
is,
just change it to design?
well, that's what I'm thinking. Because the minute you start getting into the build side of it, we're into millions of dollars. And
There wouldn't be enough in the.
no.
no, there
Bradley
wouldn't be,
gave us the total. Do you know the total, Logan? What's in the central garage?
I believe he said 11 million, not including this 2, and a portion of that was reserved for the other things in statute, like maintenance and stuff. I think like 8 was going to 1, and then there's like 3 in another pot, 2 going to the purchase of land. So maybe 1, but that's just what I recall. I don't know if those numbers are-
okay, well, I don't mind putting some money into the design, so we know exactly how much, how big the bread box is, but, I
And
think,
I like being able to spend that money for design, so you're not carrying it over and paying interest on that for the length of whatever you bought it
That makes
for.
sense.
Does that all make sense to you, Down?
Yes.
Just
And
to clarify, there's 11 million in the fund, as you had pointed out, and Jane indicates that 3.3 million is unrestricted. So of that 3.3, 2 million is going towards the land, and then there's still a buffer from which we can draw the
For the
design.
design.
but you sure couldn't do any building with
No.
So you've got enough money in there to do an $11 million building, design work for $11 million building,
So
with 10%.
Probably 25.
So just to clarify, the only thing it would be then would be central garage fund, reserve fund from the reserve fund of the central garage fund, okay. It's not, because you had said something before about the T fund,
Yeah, I would
but
just,
it's not necessary.
no, and if we have any changes to that later, we can report out on that, but I think it's probably cleaner just to do it this way since that's the plan. And then when we get to the building part of it, that would be programmed into our buildings line item
in the
appropriation.
plan.
Yeah.
That you're gonna have to, might even have to bond for that.
Possibly.
Well, that's why we cleared the tip. I realize, but there are times when you aren't gonna be able to
Correct.
pony up that.
We might have to go back.
Borrowing money isn't a bad thing, as long as it's within what you can pay back comfortably, so.
Okay.
Okay.
So I think we're done with the central garage first. Now we go back
The
to
real agreement,
Little Whacker.
Right, so this, there are 2 versions on this document, version A
You have
and
that? You need that?
I think it's online.
Okay.
Yeah.
do I need all this? I guess I could throw this out.
Road amendment.
Correct.
Update on that acreage. Approximately 23.5 acres.
Right, that's what I thought it was.
23.5.
Thank you.
Approximately.
Okay. So there are two versions on this document, both of which were, the concepts were sent over. I don't recall, Michelle, who it was. I was
Dan DeLabray.
Okay, and Dan. And, version-
That was the original one.
That was the original one, yeah.
And then-
That's all good.
You can throw that.
and then, yeah, these both take that information from both of the emails. The second one is, I believe, the one that the AOT is requesting, but I included both because I didn't know which way you would like to approach it. So shall I go through both, or go through B first, or what would you like?
Do you want me to provide any background?
Let's just go through B first.
Okay.
And if you, that's what you have background on, Michelle, sure.
Yes.
Okay, so version B, which is page 1, beginning on line 15, would amend existing statute, section 5, Title 5, 3405. It says the secretary is agent for the state, and I just happen to think, I don't know which secretary this is, if it's in Title 5. Is authorized to lease or otherwise arrange for the continued operation of all or any state-owned railroad property. And I'll just go back up and say on page 1, lines 17 through 20, it's deleting the language that the secretary has to first receive the approval of the governor and the General Assembly, or if the General Assembly is not in session, the approval of the Joint Fiscal Committee and the chairs of House and Senate Transportation.
Can you stop there, Doug, and then let me ask Michelle why you wanted to delete that?
Yeah, so what we have now sort of determined in our thinking about this framework and understanding the federal surface transportation rules over railroads is that if a railroad wants to operate on a rail line that is functional for their operations, they are entitled to do so. We can require them to pay a lease payment to us or have a lease arrangement with us, but we can't just eliminate the operations of a functional railroad without approval of the Surface Transportation Board. And so the board is the only entity that can discontinue the operation of a railroad. So our thinking was that, once we lease a rail line that we own to an operator, and so long as that operator keeps the railroad in functioning condition, they are entitled to have their lease renewed in perpetuity. We can set the sort of cost structure around that, et cetera, but we can't discontinue the relationship without the Surface Transportation Board weighing in.
So all these characters are irrelevant, and Surface Transportation is the entity
That's what we came to the conclusion of digging into this further, and that's basically what Dan was going to be coming in to tell you tomorrow. So you're welcome to hear more about it from Dan, but I don't know that he's going to say much more about it than I just
So
said.
basically you already, we're all already over.
So
can't discontinue a lease without the approval of the
Surface Transportation Organization.
Should we put that in? I don't know. I mean, that's kind of an arcane thing that you said you just found. I'm just wondering if in terms of a lease for continue, there should be some reference to that federal entity.
Or we could reference the federal statute or something. In case the statute gets repealed or changed, instead of saying you need the Surface Transportation Board's approval.
Yeah. With the approval of the Surface is authorized to. Something, I don't know, I'm just thinking if it's that arcane and this is just coming up, it might be good to have some reference back to the federal.
What about the first part of the authorized to lease or otherwise arrange for continued operation? So this would allow them, AOT to lease, if in some future thing, some railroad was to give up their
Yeah, I mean, if,
You'd have to buy it first and then lease it out.
well, if we owned it and a service discontinued on it, then, if it were an operational railroad, this is where Dan may have to weigh in. I think that Surface Trans, and somebody came along and wanted to lease it, I think we would have to lease it to them because those investments have already been made and it's an operational railroad. This is, yeah, we might need a little more technical expertise.
But we would put the language in A, relative referencing the federal.
I would want to work with, former AG John Dunleavy, who works for us on this.
Oh, John is still doing.
He's still doing a bit of consulting for us. So I might have him listen to our conversation here on tape and provide a suggestion for Donna as to how we communicate through statute that this is covered by the Surface Transportation Board and that and we would not include the need for the authority of the secretary to seek legislative approval to extend the lease. Is that also what you're thinking?
Yeah, just what you have here, we just reference that federal
Yeah.
regulation
Okay.
and
the
remember that
question-
Donna's leaving on Friday.
Yeah, I do understand that. John will jump right on it.
I imagine he will, and I'm just thinking if somebody says, well, why are you eliminating the approval and oversight? I mean, what, you know, are you just giving the secretary free rein? And that's what I'm trying to suggest, that this language doesn't align with the reality of that federal authority that will be really the determining agent, to be honest.
And I'll also ask John to contemplate the case where an operating railroad discontinues on their own, but the line is still available to be operated on. You know,
Yeah.
would we need to come to should we include language that indicates we need to come to get approval to enter into a brand new agreement with an operating railroad to operate on lines owned by the state?
That would be good.
That would,
Okay, so you're gonna provide some language to Donna. See that in the future.
And all of you probably know this already, but I did just confirm that the secretary in Title V is the Secretary of Transportation.
I'm gonna mix up.
agriculture.
I didn't know what 5 was. This is the first time I dealt with 5.
And so in B, we're just taking out this reporting requirement of the secretary.
Correct.
And that was just because it felt gratuitous. Like, we will find out about it. It doesn't really matter.
What
Do we
report?
want to note on the bottom of that? It says on B, it says within 10 days of entering into a lease agreement, secretary shall report the details. That's all struck out. So do we care to know within 10 days that they signed a lease when we've just given them approval to sign a lease? In my guess that there's nowhere in current statute where the legislature has any control over these lease agreements.
That's true, for any other thing.
Right, so if you're reporting that it happened is kind of like a 10G report.
Yeah.
We'll find out about
When
it.
we give our budget presentation, where investments are needed.
And I guess I don't think there's any language needed, and we'll talk, I guess when Dan comes in, about what the new lease is. And it's not gonna require the state to maintain it anymore. That's good. We don't need to add any language in there. So. Okay, so I think we're done with this section, the submission.
Till we hear back from John.
We're okay. Okay,
And then the 4th one was the heating systems.
yes. I wondered, because I'm gonna be meeting with the agency tomorrow on this ish question. So I don't know if there's any other questions you're expecting any. I guess we'll just wait till.
You're just asking, have it considered feasible, right, in your language?
It says it's required, but there's a, easy out that they're saying that there's financial reasons why we can't do it. So, and then the agency would have to report, it's like, here are the fossil fuel systems we did install the prior year, and why. The report is the basis of exemption provided section for any fossil fuel heating system installed in the previous
Yeah,
calendar.
but you have exemptions, so it's, if they determine that it's not, I don't know, not technically feasible, cost prohibitive, I'm.
Right now, the exemption is provide a written exemption to the replacements if the secretary determines that it's financially impracticable to install a non-fossil fuel heating system or a non-fossil fuel cooking appliance.
Cooking appliance?
Yeah, like stove. I don't know how many stoves. they
We have
install.
stoves.
Doesn't say, but an electric stove. Out of a propane stove.
What are we getting into?
Exactly.
The weeds can be a
That's the
great
weeds.
place to be. So that's what this says. It's about installing non-fossil fuel heating systems as the primary heating source for space and water heating, and install non-fossil fuel cooking appliances. So I'm gonna meet with the agency tomorrow and talk about things, so maybe some of these things they will point out where it's problematic for them, and I can report back, but I don't know if the committee has any of their own concerns or discussion that they want to have before that discussion that I'll have with AOT tomorrow.
Well,
You can
Good
find,
luck.
yeah. Right.
You know where I stand because your bill's
Yes.
on the wall in the other room. so-
Yeah, so well, there'll probably be
Yeah.
some changes here, so I'll bring back a new version of this before Donna disappears.
I just think that getting into your cooking is a little, to be honest, I can understand the heating of the buildings and whatever, but I don't know. If you use natural gas, is that permissible? No?
It's not, well, I mean, it'd be permissible if they said it's financially impracticable to natural gas is so cheap, and to put an electric stove would be not.
I don't know.
So that might be a topic for discussion to come out. We don't know.
I'm in a weekend stay.
Okay, it's the best time, yes.
Have we got more conversation on this? Are we gonna take up some more GMT conversation at some point this week or next?
Yes. So I will report back on heating systems. The repealing of 2 reports is the next.
I don't have copies of those. These are just the 2 reports that you had decided that you wanted to get rid of.
This is from the report
From the
page.
reports page,
We
I
wanted
just
to
put them on the
language
back,
in
yeah.
here. Okay, so that's fine.
To officially repeal the requirement.
Okay.
I'm all in favor of that.
So the only other thing that we're talking about, or at least that I was thinking about adding, was changes to the TIP, but we're not gonna do that. That's just like information that I thought would be helpful for the committee to have. So I'll just pass that out. We don't really need to talk about it.
Is that something for me to draft or not?
No, it's
Okay.
not, we're not gonna be adding it. It was more just information to the committee of like kind of what it would mean if the floor of the TIP was changed going forward. It was information that I asked JFO to ask, so we would have that information. So we only have 10 minutes before our lunch break, so some tells me that it's not a lot of time to start going through the sections. We have Donna tomorrow. coming in.
10:30 to noon.
Can you come in any earlier? Because we just heard Michelle's testimony that she wasn't here tomorrow today.
What time?
So
Well, I was-
Michelle was gonna come in at 9:30, but
Talk to the chair of House Transportation because when we saw that everything was filled up tomorrow, she actually had me in from 9 to noon and she gave up an hour and a half so that I could come in.
Oh, okay,
So I'm not sure that,
okay, so we have you coming in at 10:30. If you happen to get out early,
I will come right down.
okay. Well, we will talk about the heating system language instead at 9:30.
Senator, did we finalize the changes to the 10G report? Do you have that language, Donna, or no?
I think the 10G reports, since those are already in here.
Oh, it's not new language yet.
Not new
Right.
language.
Right, and thank you for reminding me about that. I'm not sure if I think I sent those yesterday. I don't know if I put them in or not yet.
Okay.
So I'll look.
They'll be in the next strike.
Yes, so the next draft, should I have a strike all, even though there are a lot of things you haven't decided one way or another, or do you want individual pieces of paper for things for tomorrow?
I think just, well, I don't know. I would, normally we just do individual people.
That's fine.
Then we get incorporated all into one totally updated document.
Okay, I can do that.
So that would be for all, you would do separate documents for any
All of the
any
yellow
section where
ones.
it's yellow, so we can look at those.
I can do that.
So we have you in at 10:30 tomorrow, hopefully earlier. And then I'll see if I can arm wrestle the House chair. And then that's Thursday, so Friday would be your last day. Right now, we don't have you, do you have any time on Friday?
I think that Megan got in touch this morning and was gonna put me in at 10:15, I think,
You okay?
on Friday.
Right, this Friday, we floor at 11:30, so if you could come in Friday,
I can come in,
10 or 10.
I can come in as early as you want on that day. They're on the floor at 9:30, so they wouldn't be using me until they come off the floor anyway.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna, on Friday,
Are you gonna be here? So you're gonna be here?
yeah,
Only
Okay.
3 of us.
yeah.
If one of us can't be here, we don't have
What's the floor schedule on Friday?
11:30.
11:30, okay. Not gonna do that earlier.
Well,
I
if-
think we're gonna try to get the calendar pretty much cleared up today and tomorrow's
it might
Thursday.
not be much, so we won't decide anything if Senator Kitchell's in here, but we could still have Donna in to come present with
Sure.
us, so we understand.
And I can, just let me know how early, I can come in as early as you need me.
Okay, we might,
Are you going
And
to-
also, just to let you know,
And
I
I could zoom in.
Okay.
the
Um,
first part of that morning, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
I actually have to leave at noon on Friday, but I'm gonna come in on Monday if there's anything that needs to be finished up, and
Okay.
also to make sure that the committee assistants and Jen Carby and, various people have copies of things, and Logan have copies of things so that you can find what you need after I'm gone.
Okay,
You go somewhere fun?
This weekend's just a little thing, but afterwards when I'm going, yeah, we're taking
It's
6,
on YouTube. I don't know if
oh, that's all right, we're taking 6 weeks in a little RV and going out to Utah to the national parks
Oh,
for black fly season.
you can-
I'm
Utah
gonna
doesn't,
try to get them all.
We're gonna be there for like 3 to 4 full weeks in Utah, so yeah, we're gonna be in all of the Utah parks.
They're great.
Yeah, we've never been
You
there, so
haven't?
not know, so we're
Oh, I
Very
think I've been to
excited.
all of them, including